Hi friends! In this video, I wanted to share my 5 favorite plugins that I have not brought up in my tutorials previously. And I made this working file, which I'll link down in the description below. It's going to be just a link to a regular file, not a community file, because it felt weird to publish this as a community file. But if you want, you can just duplicate this file and you'll have all the links to the plugins and very small presets to try out the plugin yourself. Anyway, the first plugin is called ToPath, and as the name suggests, it allows you to place any objects like shapes or text along a curve. And I've actually been playing around with this plugin specifically for some of the thumbnails for the YouTube videos. I'm still not sure whether I'm not going to stick to this style, and I feel like I'm still figuring out how to make it look smooth and playful, but not too cheesy, I guess. My whole experience with Figma has been very focused on like design systems and structure and like thinking from a perspective of a developer. And this plugin definitely takes me out of that box and it's more creative and fun. So let's try out this plugin. First, I'm going to do it with text, and I made this simple curve that's very reminiscent of what I do for my thumbnail videos. So we're going to search for ToPath. And you need to have 2 layers selected. And you can make some adjustments here, but first let's just link them together. And you'll see that now my text is curved. And obviously you can hide or remove the actual curve. And this also works with shapes. So same thing, you select the 2 objects, you run link. And here, if you wanted to change some settings, you can do that and the plugin will update your shape in real time. Anyway, super fun plugin for creative stuff. The second plugin, also for creative things, is called Pattern Creator. And what it does, it prompts you to select 2 or more patterns. And then it creates a grid where your selected patterns are in random order and perhaps even like rotated differently. So I'm going to, let's search for Pattern Creator. And so from here, you're going to obviously first make your own pattern, which could be as simple as mine. Like all I did here is just a frame, like circle, and then I modified it to be like half a circle. Obviously, you can do whatever you want. So from here, we're going to select a couple patterns. You can specify width, height, and width. Per plugin instructions, you shouldn't do more than 100 by 100, and that's understandable. That will take a long time. And you can also, if you don't want random rotation, you can just click it off, and then you press create, and here's your pattern. So yeah, I think this is a great way to come up with something unique. Before I knew of this plugin, if I wanted to make a pattern, like I would literally sit for 10 minutes figuring out all the different configurations, trying to make it appear random and balanced. And I was always disappointed with the result because I was probably overthinking it. And having this plugin is just so nice to be able to do it in one click. And if you don't like it, you can regenerate it. But usually I'm just happy with the first result that I get. Next plugin is Image Tracer. So this is another one that's just going to save you so much time. So I've definitely spent tons of time like trying to retrace an image to create it in a vector form as opposed to having it in PNG or JPEG format. And this plugin is super nice because it allows you to, again, just do it in one click. And it also gives you some settings so you have some control over the outcome. So let's try it out. First, we're just going to do a more or less simple shape, this A logo. Let's find Image Tracer. One thing I found is that there is an option for color, but sometimes the colors, like you can see here, instead of a smooth gradient, there is a harsher color divide. So for that reason, I usually do black and white. And then if you want to re-add the color back to it, I think that's the way to go. Anyway, so you have your settings here. You can customize it. I'll just do that. And here I have my traced image. And I think it looks really, really good. And this is a pretty simple shape. And it surprisingly also works well with something much more complicated like this. Like this is really, really good. So one thing about this plugin is that unlike other ones, it is a paid plugin. So you get, I think, maybe 10 tracings for free. And then there's an option to buy it. It's $10, just one fee for personal use. And then there are other options. You can also pay $2 and then you'll just get a delay for how long it's going to take to trace your image. But I definitely think this plugin is worth it. But if you can justify the cost for this plugin alone, you have probably used tons of other plugins by this creator, Dave Williams, because he also created the Google Sheets sync, which I have brought up previously on this channel. He also created Simulator, which I've also brought up on this channel, and the QR code generator, which I've not brought up, but I think I've also used before. And next plugin is called Reset Text. All right, so one of my biggest pet peeves is when the text layer name does not match the text layer content. And for that reason, I usually never name my text layers. And then one of the biggest reasons for that is that usually text layers that you name, for example, like a button label, would end up being copy-pasted and used for some other purpose, but they'll retain their initial text layer name. That's totally wrong. What I mean by all of this is, let's say you have your button, and inside this button you have a text layer that you gave a name of label, even though it says button text. So then you make an instance of this button, and you change the name to submit. It still says label, and it's kind of fine because it is an instance of a button, so it still makes sense. But then it's very common to copy-paste text layers especially, and then use them for some different purpose. So I just copied this text layer, and now let's rename it. So I might be using this as like a paragraph or as some sort of heading, somewhere where like label just does not make sense at all. And yeah, so for that reason, I just don't name my text layers, but I do still sometimes get to work with files that had text layers named previously. And very often, of course, the text layer name does not match its purpose anymore because it was copy-pasted. And so that's where Reset Text plugin comes in very handy, because what I do is that I select all the text layers, and now you can do it either using the Figma's new multi-edit feature, or you can use the Simulator plugin. And then I just run the text layer, and in one click, all of my text layers are reset. So yeah, this is definitely one of simpler plugins with a huge, huge impact. All right, last plugin. So I didn't really have an option to demonstrate it with this one file because it requires a little bit more setup. Anyway, the plugin is called Swap Variables, and it allows you to swap variable libraries between separate files as long as the name of the variables are matching. And to show what I mean by that, so let's say I have this folder here, and I have two files. One is blue theme and the other one is purple theme. In these two files, I just have two variables. One is text primary, one is background primary, light and dark mode. And the variables' names are matching. So let's go back to this folder, and I'm going to make another file that's just my working file. And the first thing that I want to do is enable my libraries. So I have my blue theme. I'm going to add that to the file. And I have my purple theme. And now I have these two libraries installed. Now let's do something simple like Hello World. And I'll start with the blue theme. I'll give it a fill of text primary. And then for the overall fill, background primary. And so what Figma allows me to do, at least currently, is that I can swap between light and dark mode. But I can't swap it for the purple theme because the purple theme is in a different file. If the purple theme was in the same file as the blue theme, I'd have been able to also swap those collections. But they are not, and I still want to swap them. And that's where this plugin comes into play, because if you run this plugin, it's going to check for whichever libraries are available in the file. And we did enable the purple theme. And then you do swap variables. And again, as long as the names of the variables are matching, it is going to work. So at work, we work with a lot of different ecosystems. And when variables first rolled out, and even before that, even before when we just work with styles, like the amount of like colors, tokens, themes that we have to manage, it just made sense for them to be in different files. So when the variables rolled out, I kept them in different files. And then I realized that like, oh my God, we actually cannot swap them if we wanted to switch themes. So maybe I should have created one file for everything. Maybe that would have been the way to go. But anyway, it was already too late. So I actually first started trying to write my own plugin that would swap things. And then I came across swap variables, and I was very happy because it just saved me tons of headache. Anyway, that's it for today's video. I hope you discovered at least one plugin that you didn't know about before, and that will be useful to you in the future. Thank you for watching, and until next time, bye.